Welcome back to another Film Geek video. Another month has come and gone, so that means only one thing. It's time for me to rank all of the new movies I saw in the month of July. Now, this is just all my opinion. This is not based off of any Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, or anything like that. These are just all the movies that I went and saw, my final verdict on how I felt about all of them, and so on and so forth. And guys, let me tell you, the month of July was packed with some really good films, and I tell you, I really enjoyed a lot of the things that I saw this month. So you know what, it's enough of me sitting here jibber jabbing on. It's time for me to hop on that information superhighway, because it's time for me to rank all of the films in the month of July. Welcome to the internet, everybody. Let's get this party started, shall we? Now, I'm using the old A, B, C, D, F grading system. A being best of the best. B, not the best, but still quite good. C, right there in the fun category. Had a good time, probably still something that I want to add to my collection. A definite solid film, but it didn't quite hit the levels of B and A. D, this movie is flawed, but it has some good stuff in there, and there was some enjoyment. It wasn't absolutely terrible. And F, you have failed. Good day, sir. I said good day. Now, I tried to put these in the order that I saw them. Now, all of these films, I have done full-on reviews on my channel, so if you're curious about my more in-depth thoughts of these movies, feel free to check out those videos also. So let's get this started, shall we, with, well, I guess you might say it was the first movie I saw of the month. I can't really remember. It's at least the first one I wrote down in my notes, and that is Maxine. Now, Maxine is the third film in the X trilogy, and guys, I really loved this film. It ties in so many different elements of 80s horror, and you would expect it to be more of an 80s horror slasher, but it decides to go into Italian horror, which I really liked. It played more like a murder mystery and so on, and guys, I'm just going to say right here, we're going to put that in A, because that is exactly where that movie deserves to be. A, all the way. And one of the main reasons for that is because of Mia Goth's performance. Man, she was so amazing in this film. There's a whole casting sequence where she's trying to get out. Well, I forgot to give you the plot of this movie. So Maxine tells the continuing story of Maxine from the previous film X. Now, she's gotten off the farm after she survived all of the events of that film, and she's trying to move out of the adult film industry and into more legitimate films, as you might call them. And, well, things are going pretty good for her, actually. It looks like she's about ready to get into real films. Well, I shouldn't say real films, but you know what I mean. Out of the adult film industry and into horror, where it seems that this is kind of like a parallel to Mia Goth, because I feel Mia Goth is one of those actors that has brought a lot of legitimacy to the genre for actors and has shown that, you know, this is not schlock, this is good stuff. And there's a scene in this movie that I absolutely love where she's sitting there in this audition for the role, you know, for this horror movie role, and she just knocks it out of the ballpark. And at the end of it, when she was walking away and she's going through like the lobby where all of the other actors are sitting around waiting to get their audition, and she's like, "I nailed it, bitches," and like bounces out. I freaking loved that. This is so what I expect Mia Goth in the real world. It was great. I enjoyed the performance. The story was great. I love the elements that they brought in from Italian horror, a little bit of 80s slashers, but all in all, and then as I brought up in my review, it also reminded me of the film Angel from, I think it's 1982, 83, I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, the movie itself, excellent film. Can't talk enough about how much I really enjoyed not just Maxine, but the entire trilogy of films. And I thought about doing a rankings of these three films, but to be perfectly honest, guys, I like all of them so much, I don't think I have a favorite. These are films that I will just watch in a row, as just like the Lord of the Rings movies. Like, they're just one big, long movie, because that's just the way I feel about this trilogy. That brings me to the next movie I saw in the month of July, and we're probably going to be seeing this a lot, because July, guys, I saw a lot of really good movies in July in a whole lot of different genres, and this one goes into the action genre. From India, we have Kill, and that's going to go right here in A also. This film was amazing. Not only was it just a balls to the wall, bloody, bare knuckle brawler kind of action film, it had a very good story. It had great protagonist, antagonist, the villain, the hero, everybody in this film came together to make one hell of an amazing action film. And the movie starts off in such an interesting way because at first you think it's going to be like maybe a romantic comedy or something, or at least have some of those elements in there. And then, boy oh boy, at about an hour mark, all of a sudden it pops up and it goes, kill! And it lets you know that this is exactly what's going to happen. Something happens in the movie, and our hero just twists on a dime. Because at first, if he had to take a life, it was because of necessity. But then after this moment, man, he goes into mode. And my God, this movie is unstoppable. What I liked about the villains also was that they were all a big family, and so they had a lot of ties to each other. They weren't just friends or just acquaintances, guys that have worked together for a while, what have you. They were loved family members, and so when one of them got pecked off and died, it was psychological torture to them. And there was also an amazing scene of psychological warfare in this movie. I just can't stop telling you, if you are an action fan, this is a movie you need to see. Positively, 100% check out Kill. Okay, going into a much lighter side of things, a little bit more fun, that is The Imaginary. This was the film from Studio Ponoc, and it tells the story of a little girl and her imaginary friend and adventures that they go on. And it's kind of like, I hate doing this because I don't want to compare it, but it's kind of like Foster's Imaginary Friends, because they find out there's like a city of imaginary friends that are being forgotten and so on. And it honestly, guys, in all, it's just a really heartwarming, fun family film, and it finds itself also right here at A. I really enjoyed this movie. The animation is outstanding. It's a hand-drawn animated film, but in some parts, you would swear that they're using CGI. And in reality, it's just the way that the film is shaded, and it looks amazing. I was blown away by this film. I was very saddened that it was only on Netflix, because this movie needs to be in theaters. I want to see this movie on the IMAX, for God's sakes, with the huge Dolby surround sound and all that good stuff, because man, this was just so sad that this was locked in on a streaming service, because I want to see more of it because it was so pretty. Now, the first film they came out was something, the Witch and the Flower. I'm so sorry, I can't remember the name of the film. But in all honesty, this film in a lot of ways is so much more superior to their first film. It's like they really learned from where they were going with this one. Very, very solid. Really enjoyed it. Must-see film, and it's on Netflix. If you have a membership, check out The Imaginary. That brings us to going back into the darkness, man. We're going back into the spookiness with Longlegs. And we're not going to just pussyfoot around. We're going to put that right up here with A also. I told you, July was filled with goodness. Oh, man, Longlegs. Where do I begin with this movie? Here, real quick. I'm going to take a little sip here. Because I got a lot. All right, what do I love about this movie? This film, first off, is a throwback to a type of film that hasn't been seen in decades, and that is the 90s serial killer movie. And people, of course, they paralleled this to Seven. They also, of course, Silence of the Lambs. But in all honesty, it fills in with any of those movies from that time period. Kiss the Girls, Copycat. Oh my God, there's so many of them. I can't think of them off the top of my head. But there was this whole time period throughout the 90s where there was these serial killer horror films, and each one of them had its own like little twitch about it, something unique and different on each one of the films, and I loved it. And Longlegs was so much like one of those films. It does such a great job of walking that nice thin line of a cult horror and serial killer mystery film. I love the fact that it keeps you guessing throughout the entire thing on where this movie's headed. Is this actually Satanism? Is this just a crazy person? Who knows? If you're not familiar with Longlegs, this one tells the story of a FBI agent who is seeking or trying to find a serial killer by the name of Longlegs. And guys, this goes into some real wackadoodle areas with some outstanding performances. Nicolas Cage, I mean, come on, Nicolas Cage, he's crazy good in this film, and he's not necessarily what you would expect, and yes, I would say there's a lot of stuff that you would expect from the Nicolas Cage performance, but it's his appearance that really throws you off in this film. I can't say enough good things about this movie, and it has inspired me. I'm coming up to a video here soon on my top 5 90s serial killer films, so I'll have that out at some point, God knows when, but this movie really influenced me to do my own list and maybe put some out there that some of y'all might not have heard of, all right? Now, coming into the sequel, this film really surprised me in a lot of ways. I was not expecting this movie to be nearly as good as it was, and that is Twisters. Now, you can watch my review. I am from the Midwest, if you couldn't figure it out with all the Kansas City stuff behind me. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, if you're watching this channel for the first time, and I am in good old Tornado Alley. And yes, I have 100% been in a tornado. I have been hit by a legit tornado, not just like these sirens were going off, so I got in the basement. No. The building I was in was hit by a tornado. So, realism is important to me. I know what it's like. And this movie did pretty freaking good at just nailing what being in a tornado is like. Yes, there are some very out there moments that it doesn't quite fit, but all in all, this movie does an excellent job of being not just fun, but fairly accurate to what a tornado and being in a tornado is like. I enjoyed this film so much. I had a great time with it. This is just an all-in-all fun disaster action film, and it's definitely finding itself perfectly sound in the B category of this list. It wasn't necessarily next level. I thought that maybe a little bit more character development could have been used, but all in all, guys, this film was a blast to go see in theaters. I had a lot of fun with it. Now that brings us to the movie Oddity. Oh my goodness. And we're going to put Oddity right up here in A, because honestly, guys, this is the scariest movie I have seen yet this year. This movie scared me. And there is not a lot of movies left out there that legitimately scare me, that make me go home and sit and watch kitten videos on YouTube before I go to bed because I can't scrub what I just saw. This film is not necessarily, yes, there's a mystery attached, but I wouldn't say that's the important part of this film, and the mystery itself is not all of that involved. It's not a real hardcore mystery, but it tells the story of a woman who, I guess you could say, owns a very unique antique store. It's an antique store with mystical items, and her sister and brother-in-law live in this country home, and her sister, is out there doing repairs on this home all by herself. In the middle of the night, somebody comes out there and kills her sister. So this is kind of a mystery story on figuring out who killed her sister. But the real horror of this movie is the Wooden Man. Oh my God, she just shows up at her brother-in-law's house with this gift. She's like, oh, hey, I got this gift for you. Check out this Wooden Man. Isn't it nice? It's beautiful. It's part of our heritage because it was given to our mother by a witch. And then they're just like, oh, we are so not keeping this. Oh my God, this film does so much craziness with jump scares, it's not even funny. There are so many moments where you think you're preparing yourself, you're waiting for that jump scare, and then it just leaves you hanging. And then out of nowhere, you'll get a jump scare that you truly weren't expecting, and that's what makes this movie so wonderful, because when you've seen a lot of horror movies, you know what's happening, you know how the scares are created and made, and so you start to see it all come together, and you're like, okay, here comes a jump scare. And this film does such a great job of throwing you off of the scent. It also has these really cool jumping, I guess you could call them jump scare moments, but normally a jump scare, it's where you get hit with something jumping out at you, a loud noise, all this stuff. Well, in this movie, the jump scares don't necessarily have a lot of noise. In some moments, it'll build and build and build, like the music will keep getting louder and louder and louder, and then it just gets really super quiet. And you're like, oh, okay, nothing. And all of a sudden, ah! I mean, my God, trying to predict the way this movie comes at you is so hard. The film itself, because of its unpredictability with the way it scares you, you really don't know what's going to happen next. There's just this overwhelming feeling of dread throughout the entire thing. I mean, this movie is such a well-crafted horror film that I just have difficulty watching anything else and not finding it nearly this good. Okay, so that brings us to the next film on our list. Again, I'm telling you guys, I'm telling you, I'm just, everything's top tier in the month of July for me. Sing Sing! Gonna put that right there. This movie tells the story of a group in Sing Sing prison that is using the arts as therapy to help the prisoners in the prison in Sing Sing. And the film has some actual people who were in that program while in Sing Sing. So the actors are some real actors, or I should say professional actors, and then some folks that this is the first time that they might have been in a film. And it is just such a well-made movie. It is just the dialogue, the acting, the story itself. It just tells such a good story. And even though you're in this prison with these folks that, they're going through, prison, there's still like this really nice hope that goes throughout the entire film that there's a better life for these people at some point. And the movie just does a great job of telling their story and showing you that sometimes people make mistakes and people can change, and we need to remember that. Or people might just need a little bit of rehabilitation, a helping hand, and just be shown some kindness, and you can change an entire person's life. And this film does such a great job of showing us things like that. So that's why it finds itself at the very top at A at the top, not number one, but A. So that brings us to another fun little film, and that is The Crumb Catcher, or was it just Crumb Catcher? Crumb Catcher, excuse me, Crumb Catcher. The Crumb Catcher was a thriller. It's a little indie film, and I had a blast with this movie. I really did enjoy it. We're going to put it right here at B also. Now, this movie isn't a perfect film. It has, it has some moments that aren't absolute perfection, but in all honesty, this movie is a blast, and it's a lot of fun, and it's just a good little indie film, just a fun little indie film. And it tells the story of a newlywed couple, and even on the day of their wedding, you can tell there's something wrong. There's some major problems in this relationship. Well, then they go off to their honeymoon, I suppose. I can't remember if it was their honeymoon or whatever, but they're not staying in their home. It's just a nice cabin that they're staying at, that a friend of theirs, blah, blah, blah. But anyways, they go off to be there. And while they're there, this person that was at their reception for their wedding shows up. And while at their reception, there was some problems with the cake and the cake topper, and they couldn't find the cake topper. Well, so this waiter comes all the way out to their cabin and delivers the cake topper. And they're like, oh, hey, thanks. So while this guy's there, he's like, hey, you know what? Let me show you something. I have this amazing device that's going to change the world. The Crumb Catcher. And then this film goes into wackadoodle territory. It is just thriller insanity. Now, I'm not talking about weird imagery or anything like that. This movie stays very well grounded in reality, but it also hits into like a weird quirkiness with these characters that makes it feel like it might be slightly surreal, but at the same time, totally feels like an event that could happen. I really enjoyed this movie. I know that it had a very limited release in theaters, so I have no idea if it's still out there or not. I'm sure it's going to show up on some streaming service out there somewhere, so if you didn't get a chance to see this in theaters, I highly recommend checking out Crumb Catcher if it's on any streaming services that you subscribe to. Okie dokie. That brings us to the big dog. This brings us to the movie of the summer, in my opinion. I think this movie is going to be the one that makes all of the monies, and that is Deadpool and Wolverine. And I Really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought it was a very enjoyable comic book based superhero-y movie. I thought the characters were great. But it didn't do it completely for me. It's not an A, but I'm not going to give it a C. I'm going to put it right here in B. I think that's fair. I did really enjoy this movie. The chemistry between Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds is outstanding. These two knocked it out of the park. It was just the story itself for the movie. It didn't do it for me. We're still in this whole multiverse thing, which I'm not a huge fan of the multiverse. I have gone over that in other reviews for movies in the Marvel Universe right now. I don't like the multiverse thing because I feel like it doesn't give any stakes to the characters. Because, hey, guess what, guys? If you don't like this Wolverine, don't worry, there's infinite numbers of Wolverines. So if this Wolverine doesn't work out for you, we'll just go find another Wolverine or Captain America or blah, blah, blah. And it's just like that. It takes away all the stakes to the characters. But that's the multiverse, not necessarily Deadpool and Wolverine. This movie was a lot of fun. It was funny. It keeps up with everything that Wolverine, or everything that Deadpool has been trying to do with the superhero genre. It just, for me, it just felt comedy-wise, the way it looked, everything. It really was an MCU movie that was just kind of crude, with some adult humor and lots of blood and violence. It wasn't necessarily the same as the other Deadpool movies, which I went over in my review and all, so I'm not going to go into very deep on this. I did really love this film. I had a lot of fun with it. I laughed my ass off, but I gotta be honest, I don't feel like it was the best of the trilogy. Alright, that brings us to a movie that I really was hoping was gonna be a lot better, and I called it a laundry folder in my review, and so laundry folder it is. And that is The Beast Within. I had a lot of high hopes for this movie. It's starring Kit Harington. It tells the story of a family that lives in a very secluded area of England. A daughter of the family, notices that mom and dad leave once a month or so often out into the woods. They spend the entire evening alone. Bada boom, bada bing, fast forward, find out dad's a werewolf. But nope, this movie's not really a werewolf movie. It's an allegory for something else. And enough people have said it already in the reviews. It's an allegory for abuse. It's been there, done that, unfortunately, with other films, and done much better. This film was honestly very boring at first. It does get into some areas that I did find cool. The cinematography in this film was beautiful. I really liked it. I did like the characters, despite the fact we don't really see any kind of real character development or anything like that. I should say I liked the actors. The performances were very good, especially the little girl. I thought the little girl in this movie did an excellent job. Kit Harington also did the best he possibly could by making with his script that he was given. He did do a very good job at being a horrifyingly abusive father/husband. So there's that. He did a very good job. But unfortunately, this movie was very boring. It fell flat for me, but it's not terrible. I do feel like this is worth a stream out of curiosity. So that brings me to the final film of the month, and that is The Duel. Now, this is the dark horse of the month because I went and saw this movie on July 31st, so the last day of the month, and the main reason why I'm just now getting this video up. This film really exceeded my expectations. I was not expecting much out of this film going into it. The trailer didn't look bad, but it didn't look great. This film really was a lot of fun. It tells the story of a group of friends. One friend has slept with another friend's girlfriend. Alright, so two best friends. Best friend one cheated on girlfriend, blah, 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 okay? So anyways, instead of just getting into a fist fight with this person, he says, you know what? I challenge you to a gentleman's duel. And they decide, yeah, let's do that. We're going to do the whole 10 paces and shoot at each other situation. And come to find out that there is an underground society. And this just leads to all sorts of other things. Let's just put it that way. So they find this underground society of duelists, and then just wackiness ensues. Let's just put it that way. Because the more I talk about what goes on from there on out, it could be some spoilers spoilers and all. But this film was a lot of fun. I really liked the camaraderie. I thought that there was a very, real friendship amongst the actors. It was a very good chemistry with them and so on and so forth. Patrick Warburton is also in this movie, and he does great. He adds a lot of great humor to the film. There are some really good laugh out loud moments. It brings up some other good messages and things of that sort, like what the true meaning of this film is and so on. I really liked this movie. I thought it was a great effort for a nice little indie film and definitely worth your time to get out in theaters. And I'm going to put it right here in the B. I'm going to give it a B. I was going to give it a C, but then I'm like, you know what? No, it was actually pretty freaking good. It all held together solid. The story was nice. Character development was there. We did see growth, and we saw some regression also in characters, which I thought is something kind of unique that you don't see every day in a movie. So all in all, guys, The Duel was an excellent film. I do not know what's going on with that. It was a one-night only premiere when I went and saw it, so I don't know if it's going to be coming out in theaters at any time soon. So keep your eyes open for it. Maybe it's going to pop up on VOD or something. It's a Lionsgate film. Definitely worth your time to check it out. So there we have it, guys. Yes, sir. There is the month of July. All of the films I saw, and like I said, this was one hell of a month. I'm going to have a tough time with the top 10s for this year because July just blew everybody out of the ballpark, all right? Okay, guys, thanks again for checking out The Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you can do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.